Hi guys, Ian Johnson from drivesuccess.com. Today I want to talk to you guys about VMI, which is basically vendor managed inventory. Now this came through one of my other videos. One of the viewers had asked and made a request that I do a video on vendor managed inventory and basically go through how it's done, how it operates, some of the pros and cons. And it's pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to go over basically 5 ways that a VMI agreement can actually move forward, and how a vendor manages inventory, physical inventory for a customer, because that's essentially what VMI is. This is vendor managed inventory. This is when a vendor physically manages the inventory at a customer's facility. So the inventory is at the customer's facility, and it's up to the vendor to make sure that it's replenished properly, that the minimum and maximum amount of inventory is held in the right quantities. And so I'm going to go over basically 5 ways that a vendor can actually do that. Okay. Now the first one is the vendor is actually on site. Okay. Vendor is on site. In this case, the supplier or the vendor sends one of its employees to the customer's facility to physically manage the inventory. So the vendor is on site. So this is an employee that is positioned full-time at customer's facility. Now, this employee is the vendor's employee. It's paid by the vendor, but he's there full time. Now, you typically will see something like this when it's a really big contractual supply agreement. Okay, you might see this with an automotive manufacturer, or something to that extent, where like 70% of the inventory is allocated to one vendor, and that vendor's job from 9 till 5 is just to manage that inventory. Okay. The other way that they can do it is they can actually physically replenish inventory on a visit. Okay. So in this case, what they actually do is they actually bring the inventory with them. Okay. So they bring the inventory. So they actually drive up to the customer's facility, they go in, they see what the inventory counts are, and they physically restock the levels. And you might see this, I guess the best example is if you ever go to a 7-Eleven or some local store, you're going to see guys that basically come in and replenish the shelves with whatever, Coke or beer or chips and stuff. So that's basically kind of the concept. The vendor arrives on site, sees what needs to be replenished, and has the inventory in their truck to replenishment. Okay? The third one is basically when the vendor has access to customers' inventory system. Okay? Inventory system. So this might include having access to the MRP system, their ERP system. Okay, so the vendor is able to go in and see exactly what the inventory counts are. In a lot of cases, this is one of those situations where the inventory counts are tracked through the MRP system. The vendor has access to it, and from a remote location, he's actually at his own facility. He can see remotely what the inventory counts are, and he can replenish accordingly. And a lot of times when it comes to something like this, a company has to make sure that the vendor only sees the inventory system and nothing else within the ERP. Okay? A fourth way to do this is, if you're a small to medium-sized enterprise and you want to run a vendor-managed inventory agreement, but you don't have the capacity to put an employee on site or physically replenish the inventory, what you can rely upon is a simple barcode system. Okay, barcode and picture system. Now this may sound kind of archaic, outdated, antiquated. The picture system, I mean, but essentially what you're doing is you're saying to the customer, listen, we're going to send you inventory. And we would like to have a photograph of the inventory count at the end of a given month, so we know exactly how much to replenish. Okay, or your customer could barcode it. You basically put a barcode on all the boxes that you're shipping, all the industrial finished goods you're shipping out, and your customer barcodes and then gives you a tally at the end of the month, and that's how you replenishment. How you do the replenishment. So there's different ways of doing it. And I guess the last way is that a vendor can actually, rent out physical space next to the facility. Okay, rent out space next door. Okay, or even inside the customer's location. Okay, so rather than having an employee on site, they basically say, okay, listen, we'll agree to send you this material and we'll manage it ourselves, and we'll actually even take it a step further by renting out a portion of your warehouse just for us, and that's how we'll do it. Now, what are the benefits to running this type of thing? Well, as a vendor, okay, one of the things that you protect against is the lost sales cost of inventory. Now, a link just popped up above my head. This explains the two main cost drivers of inventory. It costs money to have inventory without sales. These are carrying costs. And it costs money to not have inventory and lose sales. And you measure that lost sales cost of inventory by lost gross profit, lost customers. So having a vendor manage inventory protects against lost sales cost of inventory. Okay, that's one of the two main drivers of inventory. Okay, the other thing that it protects against is a customer who can't plan. I mean, there's all kinds of customers out there who are always calling you up at the last minute, and you have to incur all kinds of expedite fees and overtime to get products out to them. So if you're going to do a VMI agreement, it actually helps the customer plan better, okay? And you can eliminate those issues that come with poor planning. So the benefits are, you know, you're guaranteed, I guess the last one would be, you're guaranteed to remain incumbent supplier, okay? So basically, as long as you're there, you've got the business. Now, some of the costs, or some of the cons, let's say. Some of the cons, we'll call these the pros. These are the pros. And some of the cons, now it depends upon the type of agreement you're running, but you may still have carrying costs of inventory, okay? Now, a link just popped up above my head again. This is a link to a video I did on consignment inventory. It's a very simple process. You're shipping a lump sum of product to a customer's facility, and they're only invoiced on the material they use in a given month. And that's kind of like a VMI agreement. So in those cases, you're still carrying the inventory. It's still yours. You can't invoice your customer until he uses it. So you still have carrying costs. There can still be issues with damage and obsolescence and all those other things. Like what happens if your customer says, you know what, we really don't want it anymore, we want to send it back, okay? Especially if you don't have an employee on site. So that's it. That's vendor managed inventory. You have a vendor on site, you have an employee that's basically paid by the vendor on the customer's facility to manage this huge inventory. You physically replenish inventory when you come to the customer's facility. You have access to their MRP system, the customer's MRP system. If you can't do these type of things, maybe you can barcode, ask your customer to take a picture so you know exactly how much to replenish. Maybe even provide it with an Excel spreadsheet. That's possible. And then you could rent space inside the facility or next door, rent a small warehouse location right around the corner. And the benefits are it protects you against that lost sales cost of inventory. Check out that video. It'll explain the two main cost drivers of inventory. It helps you with a customer that can't plan. It guarantees that you remain the incumbent supplier, but you still have to worry about issues relating to carrying costs and obsolescence and what happens if your customer wants to send that material back. All right, so that's it. Vendor managed inventory. Ian Johnson, drivingsuccess.com. Bye-bye.